The slogan,
in this together.
And take back control, the strong and stable leadership.
the lies,
We didn't stick to it. And for that I am sorry.
failed delivery,
Tackle the deficit. The consequences could be disastrous.
There will be no increases in national insurance contribution rates in this Parliament.
and downright bizarre.
Nothing has changed.
Modern politics is broken in Britain, and it doesn't like it's going to be fixed anytime soon. In this video, we'll be taking an in-depth look at the story of modern politics and how it came to be so broken, so damaged, and so untrustworthy. Most importantly, we'll be asking how to fix it. To start our journey, we must go back to 1997. Tony Blair had just been elected Prime Minister, and the country seemed set. I'll admit not everything was perfect. Blair himself had just followed John Major, a minority government, but for the most part the country was following its order of a Labour government followed by a Conservative government, and we had a commanding Prime Minister. It was a time before the internet, when waving the British flag was not seen as racist, and when the term Blairite was a compliment rather than an insult. A politics for everyone, not just for those on the left or the right, and Britain was booming. But two things were about to happen during Blair's term which would taint politics and news events for years to come.
Good evening. America came under attack today from international terrorists on a scale that made it more an act of war.
9/11, an event that overshadowed terrorism and foreign policy for years to come. It was an event that started the excuse of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and an event that empowered and emboldens Islamic terrorists, emphasizing that what they did will always make the headlines. What they did was important, and what they did was an act of war. It was an event that started the war in Iraq, an illegal war that would make any Blairite a blood-soaked killer, not a trusted politician. It overshadowed our intervention and lack of intervention in the Middle East in the years to come, and the following years of terrorism only perpetuated the hate, the blame, and the lack of trust of both politicians and Islam itself.
Using controlled migration to help reduce skill gaps and stimulate economic growth in geographical areas that might otherwise have problems is nothing more than common sense.
The second event to plague the Blair years was the expansion of the EU to include the Baltic states. This increased European migration to Britain and ultimately led to the rise in UKIP and the European referendum in future years. Blair lasted 3 terms but handed his already rusted crown to an unelected politician in 2007.
I have just accepted the invitation of Her Majesty the Queen to form a government. This will be a new government with new priorities. And I have been privileged to have been granted the great
Gordon Brown, a man whose smile seemed disingenuous, a man who was less competent, and most importantly, a man who was less popular in a party that was already tainted with blood.
to the British people. A year ago, the 160-year history of Lehman Brothers Bank came to an end. It was a bank that had survived the Great Depression, and it had survived 2 world wars, but it could not survive this global storm, and 25,000 people lost their jobs overnight.
It was perhaps an inevitability caused by world events outside of his control, but the 2008 banking crisis only strengthened the belief of his incompetence.
He's discovered that in total 390 MPs overclaimed on their second homes allowance. Between them, they'll have to repay £1.12 million.
The 2009 expenses scandal only increased the distrust the public had in politicians. And then right before the election, this happened.
That was a disaster. Well, just... Okay. Should never have put me with that woman. Whose idea was that?
I don't know, I didn't see.
It's Sue, I think. They're just ridiculous.
I'm not sure they'll go with that one.
They will go in.
What did she say?
Oh, everything. She's just a sort of bigoted woman. Said she used to be Labour. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It was yet another stab in the public's mind that would change the course of history in more ways than one.
This is a new government, and it's a new kind of government. A radical, reforming government where it needs to be, and a source of reassurance and stability at a time of great uncertainty in our country too.
It was perhaps no surprise then that Gordon Brown lost after such a disastrous term in office. But the public didn't turn to the other side either, instead voted for a hung parliament that would go on to become a coalition between the Lib Dems and the Conservatives, and forever burn the Liberal Democrat reputation. Now it was time for the media to take a hit.
This is the most humble day of my life.
Okay, thank you.
Now a jury's decided, investigators, reporters and an editor who went on to advise a Prime Minister all broke the law in the phone hacking conspiracy. The scandal ignited when it was revealed missing schoolgirl Millie Dowler's phone was hacked.
The evidence is now overwhelming that one of Britain's most beloved entertainers, the late Sir Jimmy Savile, was also a predatory sex offender.
The 2011 phone hacking scandal and Jimmy Savile's sex scandal served to prove to the British public that the media couldn't be trusted. There were two sickening reminders of just how corrupt the mainstream media could be. In 2011, social media proved its power in London.
There's petrol bombs being thrown, there's bricks being thrown. They had control at that point, and I think a lot of them knew that.
As we've exited the car park, the van was getting constantly pelted. The thing that probably scared me the most was that the side door was about to fly open and someone's going to come in and just drag me off.
It was used for bad on this occasion, but nonetheless, it was a power that could no longer be ignored, and more importantly, a power that could no longer be controlled.
This weekend, the Federation warned that spending reductions mean that we'll be forced to adopt a paramilitary style of policing in Britain. Today, you've said that neighbourhood police officers are an endangered species. I have to tell you that this kind of scaremongering does nobody any good. It doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve the officers you represent, and it doesn't serve the public.
The deficit, blamed on the Labour Party, gave the Conservatives an excuse for austerity. Cuts to public services, cuts to jobs, all in aid of reducing the deficit. A deficit to this day that has not yet disappeared. But two things happened during the coalition government to cement Cameron's next victory, but also drove him to his death sentence.
We meet in a week that could change the United Kingdom forever. Indeed, it could end the United Kingdom as we know it. On Thursday, Scotland votes, and the future of our country is at stake. On Friday, people could be living in a different country, with a different place in the world, and a different future ahead of it.
The Scottish independence referendum was a referendum which divided the nation. It put the SNP firmly in charge in 2015, and it made sure economic uncertainty and Project Fear was the winning strategy in campaigns to come. But David Cameron's winning of it was the one reason why he secured his next term in Parliament, the other being the fact he got the economy going again after a period of recession. But that didn't excuse the cuts he had to make to get there.
I've just been to see Her Majesty the Queen, and I will now form a majority Conservative government. I've been proud to lead the first coalition government in 70 years, and I want to thank all those who worked so hard to make it a success.
So Cameron won a second term on his own, but one promise, to appease one party and his own backbenchers during the election, proved to be his death sentence: the EU referendum.
We are approaching one of the biggest decisions this country will face in our lifetimes, whether to remain in a reformed European Union or to leave.
He used the same Project Fear rhetoric he used in the Scottish referendum, but it backfired.
Let's move
all
on.
say the same thing
Prime Minister, your
about the economic...
Your scaremongering does not stop at the economy, does it? What comes first, World War III or the global Brexit recession?
He lost, and he was once again another Prime Minister handing a rusted crown to a less popular leader. A leader with little charisma, a leader who was responsible in part to some of those cuts, and a leader who was irresponsible once again to the economy, down to one fatal decision she made.
My case has been based on three things. First, the need for strong, proven leadership to steer us through what will be difficult and uncertain economic and political times. The need, of course, to negotiate the best deal for Britain in leaving the EU and to forge a new role for ourselves in the world. Brexit means Brexit, and we're going to make a success of it.
In the meantime, rising through the ranks was Jeremy Corbyn, a leader who definitely was not tainted with the Blairite term. No blood on his hand, he wouldn't fight, and promises of no more cuts.
He did win a stonking great majority, there's no doubt about that, and he is very popular with the members. But over the last 6 months, I think lots of us who served Jeremy with not just loyalty to the Labour Party, but a real sense of hope that he was getting the Labour back to being a more radical, traditional Labour government in waiting, have lost faith in him. Have lost faith in his ability to lead us, have lost faith in his ability to take us to an election victory. And we had that massive vote, 172 of our 200 MPs saying we didn't think we could win with Jeremy because we didn't think he was listening to us and we didn't think he was listening much to the country.
But when the election came around again, no party, no leader won. On the Labour side was a party in part responsible for an illegal war and a leader who only helped us remember the past and its divisions. On the Conservative side was another not-to-be-trusted establishment austerity politician calling an election we didn't want.
You're joking. Not another one?
And then not taking part in it.
Public scrutiny is a very important part of any election campaign. He's now up for a head-to-head debate. Doesn't it suggest that you're frightened of taking him on directly if you don't go too?
No, as you know, Laura, first of all, I've been taking Jeremy Corbyn on directly, week in and week out in Prime Minister's questions. Secondly, actually, yes, public scrutiny is for an election campaign, but that's why taking questions from members of the public who are going to be voting on the 8th of June is so important. That's what I enjoy doing during the campaigns, and I think that's really important. That's why I've been doing that up and round the country. But I think the other interesting question is I feel sorry for ITV. Why didn't he do their debate?
Besides policy failures, the past will always inform the future. The electorate is intelligent, able to figure out how things will go based on campaigns, based on reputations, based on trust, not based on slogans and brainwashing through the media. It's now almost certain there will be another election within the next few weeks, months, years, and Theresa May won't last very long at all. But what will that mean for Brexit? Will our one voice get listened to, or are those politicians just in it for themselves? Well, whether you call the UK electorate stupid or just confused is a matter of opinion. I think there are too many voices, too much division, too much hate, and nobody is listening. Theresa May had a point. We do need strong and stable leadership. But she failed to notice that the leadership is led by us and not the government. For now at least, nobody in politics is showing us all exactly what we want. What's most important to you? Let me know in the comments below.